life confronts us with the undeniable reality of transience, people enter our lives only to exit them, leaving behind a tapestry of connections woven from shared experiences and emotions. Beacon of ancient insights, we forge bonds that anchor our hearts, yet we often find ourselves grappling with profound sorrow when those ties unravel. What becomes of us when a cherished relationship dissolves? How do we bear the emotional burden of someone who once filled a space in our lives, only to fade into the background? Or worse, how do we cope when we realize that the emotional investment was never mutual? Such questions often plague our minds. How can I cease to care? Is it possible to detach emotionally without sacrificing my essence? In these moments of uncertainty, the teachings of Stoicism, particularly those of Marcus Aurelius, illuminate a potential path forward. The Stoics excelled at deciphering the complexities of human emotion, not through avoidance, but by mastering the balance that these feelings exert over our lives. Emotional detachment does not equate to becoming cold or indifferent. Rather, it represents a reclamation of our ability to respond with clarity and tranquility. In this exploration, I will present 5 enduring Stoic principles designed to facilitate emotional detachment. We will draw upon the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius as our guiding light. This journey is not merely theoretical, it serves as a practical guide to transform your interactions with both yourself and those around you. Rule 1. Embrace the impermanence of life. Marcus Aurelius profoundly asserts, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. In the realm of emotional attachments, we frequently find ourselves gripping tightly to our subjective narratives regarding the significance of others in our lives. Yet the truth remains that all relationships are ephemeral. One moment you may feel an intimate connection, and the next, that bond dissipates, be it through physical distance, the inevitability of death, or the gradual decline of closeness. People come and go. While this realization may appear somber, it constitutes the Stoics' fundamental tenet of detachment, to embrace impermanence. Acknowledging that no relationship is everlasting enables us to cultivate a deeper awareness of the present moment. Consider the metaphor of holding a handful of sand at the beach. The more tightly you grasp it, the more swiftly it escapes your fingers. This is an immutable law of existence. The harder we strive to possess someone or something, the quicker it eludes our grasp. Reflecting on my own journey, I recall a friendship that endured for over a decade. We exchanged our dreams, fears, and late-night dialogues, yet as time marched on, our paths diverged. Despite my resistance, the chasm between us widened. The emotional investment I had poured into that relationship felt like a chain binding me to an individual who no longer mirrored my sentiments. Only upon accepting that the friendship had naturally concluded could I liberate myself from the emotional burden it imposed. As Marcus Aurelius would counsel, by accepting the inevitability of endings, we can reduce the suffering we experience when those endings come to pass. Rule 2. Harness rational thought to regulate your emotions. In the complex flow of human emotions, we often find ourselves swept away by instinctive reactions, unaware that we hold the power to control those feelings. Pain, sadness, and anger may surge, yet these are not signs of reality, rather the reflections of how we think and interpret events. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, asserted that our minds are the sole source of strength in shaping our responses to the world. When faced with emotional storms, instead of allowing them to lead, pause to question, what are the facts of this situation? Rather than falling into the trap of negative thoughts, train yourself to think rationally. You have the right to choose thoughts that liberate you, not those that exacerbate suffering. We often forget that it is our interpretation of an event that causes emotional turmoil, not the event itself. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This underscores that our emotions are a direct result of our internal dialogue. Imagine a scenario where you send a heartfelt message to a loved one. Hours go by without a reply, and immediately your mind begins to race with speculation. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? Do they no longer care about me? The reality here is not the delay in their response, but your interpretation of their silence. The Stoic response is clear. Challenge those automatic emotional reactions by asking yourself, what are the facts? Instead of letting your emotions control your life, recognize that feelings of anxiety or rejection do not stem from reality but from your own thoughts. Rule 3. Employ negative visualization as a tool for resilience. When we confront life, it is undeniable that loss is an inevitable part of existence. Whether in friendship, love, or career, everything can change or come to an end. Stoicism encourages us to practice a seemingly strange but profound exercise, to imagine losing something or someone significant. This practice is not meant to add burden to the mind, but rather to equip us with a more practical approach to the grief that may arise. Marcus Aurelius taught us, do not disturb yourself by imagining the whole of your life's troubles at once. Instead, face each challenge with calmness and self-control. When you dare to confront the anxiety of losing a close friend, envision your life without them. Allow your mind to explore that uncomfortable feeling, thereby lessening its weight when it inevitably occurs. Recognizing that everything we cherish will eventually be lost is not a morbid thought, it is a liberating one. When we cease to expect permanence, we also stop feeling entitled to it. Apply this to your relationships. Many enter love with the assumption that it will last forever, while reality shows that nothing is guaranteed. Instead of waiting for certainty, cherish every moment, understanding that change is the only constant. Practicing negative visualization helps us cultivate inner strength that cannot be easily shaken by life's changes. By repeatedly imagining worst-case scenarios, you will discover that you can endure and even thrive through the challenges life presents. Ultimately, the simple truth is you will be okay, and that is the highest form of emotional detachment, not from life itself, but from the illusion that you need everything to remain unchanged in order to be happy. Rule 4. The strength of acceptance, empowerment through control. A central tenet of Stoicism, and one of the most liberating insights you can embrace, is the distinction between what is within our control and what lies beyond it. This distinction assumes particular significance when it comes to emotionally detaching from others. Why is it so vital? Because a substantial portion of the anguish we experience in relationships arises from our desire to control that which we simply cannot. In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius consistently emphasizes the importance of directing our focus solely on what we can influence: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. Everything else, such as the behavior of others, the outcomes of circumstances, and the relentless march of time, remains outside our domain. The more we strive to control the uncontrollable, the more we are destined to suffer. Thus, emotional detachment is not an act of frigid separation from others. Rather, it involves relinquishing our attachment to outcomes that lie beyond our influence. When we find ourselves deeply attached to another person, be it a romantic partner, a close friend, or a family member, it is entirely natural to wish to influence their feelings toward us. We desire reciprocity in care and affection. However, the stark reality is that we cannot dictate their emotions. It is beyond our capacity to compel someone to love us, to appreciate our efforts, or to treat us with the respect we deserve. The only domain we can govern is our own response to their actions. Pause for a moment and reflect on an occasion when you endeavored to sway someone's feelings or behavior. Perhaps you went to great lengths to earn someone's affection or exhausted yourself in proving your worth to a friend who never genuinely valued you. How did that pursuit leave you feeling? Most likely it resulted in frustration, anxiety, and a sense of powerlessness as you were pursuing something unattainable. I once found myself in a relationship where I felt perpetually engaged in a struggle to keep everything together. Despite my efforts to plan meaningful dates, send thoughtful messages, and remain emotionally available, I constantly felt as though I were one step behind. When they withdrew, I responded by trying even harder. This relentless cycle of anxiety arose from my attempts to control how they felt about me. But it was only when I began to embrace the Stoic principle of focusing solely on what I could control, my actions and my self-worth, that I began to find relief from the anxiety. I came to realize that I could not compel them to love me more or to treat me better. My only sphere of influence was my response, and in that moment of clarity, I chose to detach. The relief that followed from letting go of that emotional burden was profound. One of the most liberating realizations you can attain is the concept of emotional autonomy, the recognition that your happiness, peace, and emotional stability should not depend on the behavior or feelings of others. When you place your emotional well-being in the hands of another, you surrender your power, becoming a prisoner to their actions, moods, and choices. Imagine being in a friendship where you consistently feel sidelined. Your friend no longer invests the time they once did, and you feel neglected. Naturally, this experience is painful, and you may find yourself ruminating on what you might have done wrong or why they have distanced themselves. Yet here lies the key: their behavior is outside your control. The only aspect within your power is your response. Will you expend energy pursuing someone who does not value you, or will you choose to focus on nurturing relationships and activities that bring you genuine joy and fulfillment? By redirecting your attention to what you can control, your emotional state, you begin to reclaim your power. You cease waiting for external validation or attention to feel whole. Instead, you cultivate your own emotional equilibrium, independent of external circumstances. In my own experience, I have navigated friendships where I realized I was giving away too much power to the treatment I received from others. If they were distant or dismissive, I felt unworthy. If they were warm and attentive, I felt valued. This dynamic was an exhausting emotional roller coaster. Yet, as I began applying Stoic principles, I made a conscious choice to dissociate my self-worth from the actions of others. I redirected my focus toward nurturing my emotional well-being, independent of their behavior. This shift did not signify a lack of care. Instead, it meant I ceased allowing their actions to dictate my inner peace. Ultimately, the goal of emotional detachment is not indifference but acceptance, the acceptance that life and people are inherently unpredictable, and that no matter how fervently we may wish to control our surroundings, we cannot. What we can do is accept reality as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. Consider the experience of navigating a breakup. You may feel lost, hurt, and overwhelmed. Your mind races with questions. What if I had done something differently? Why did this happen? Can I change this outcome? Such questions are natural but stem from a desire to control something that is already in the past and aspiration to reverse what has transpired. Instead of tormenting yourself with what-ifs, the Stoic response invites you to accept the situation as it stands. Marcus Aurelius asserts the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacles we encounter are not mere hindrances, they represent opportunities for growth. By accepting what lies beyond your control, you cease to squander energy attempting to alter the past or influence others, allowing you to focus instead on how you can move forward. During one of the most challenging periods in my life, I faced the sudden and painful loss of a relationship I had believed to be solid. Initially, I was consumed by the desire to understand why it had ended and what I could have done differently. However, I gradually realized that the path to peace lay in accepting the situation as it was, not as I had wished it to be. I could not change the past, nor could I control the feelings of the other person. What I could control was my reaction to that loss. Rather than clinging to what was lost, I embraced the present reality and discovered strength and acceptance. Rule 5. Seek the wider context. In the intricate dance of relationships and emotional challenges, one often finds oneself ensnared in a web of intense feelings. The wisdom of Stoic philosophy, particularly as articulated by Marcus Aurelius, invites us to step back and ponder the broader context of our existence. Aurelius reminds us that our fears, desires, and troubles are fleeting moments within the vast tapestry of time. Pre-adopting this elevated viewpoint, we can better navigate the currents of emotional detachment. Ask yourself poignant questions. Will this pain endure in 5 years? Does this individual truly encapsulate the essence of my life? When we shift our attention from the immediate chaos of our emotions to a more expansive reflection, we begin to perceive that much of our distress is linked to ephemeral situations. Stoicism teaches us that no one person or event should exert undue influence over our emotional landscape. When we become overly attached, it is all too easy to place someone at the center of our universe. Our happiness and self-worth may become entwined with their presence or absence. Yet by stepping back to view the grand panorama of life, we are reminded that existence is in constant flux. Relationships, regardless of their depth, are but a fragment of our journey. We are each complete beings traversing our own paths and gathering myriad experiences. In the heat of a breakup or emotional strife, this perspective may feel elusive. And nevertheless, reflecting on the larger narrative of our lives reveals that we have weathered emotional tempests before. Life progresses, and so must we. Consider past relationships or instances when you believed your world was crumbling. Those wounds healed, leaving you more resilient and insightful. This is the natural cadence of life. I recall a time when a particularly painful breakup felt insurmountable, as if my very essence was unraveling. For weeks, I clung to the past, feeling that my future had lost its vibrancy. However, as time passed, I granted myself the grace to reflect on the larger horizon. So I came to understand that while this person held significance, they did not define the entirety of my existence. They were merely a chapter in my unfolding story. By expanding my perspective, I recognized the relationship as but one thread woven into a much grander narrative, allowing me to embark on the journey of emotional detachment. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, emphasized the impermanence of all things: relationships, emotions, and situations. Everything in life is transient, and what truly matters is our response to these inevitable changes. By contemplating the expansive horizon, we cultivate a sense of inner serenity, understanding that life continues to flow regardless of our temporary attachments. This broader viewpoint enables emotional detachment, not through indifference, but through the wisdom that clinging too tightly to fleeting moments invites unnecessary suffering. Emotional detachment is not apathy. It is the recognition that life encompasses much more than any singular relationship or moment of pain. By perceiving our lives as vast, interconnected tapestries of experiences, we liberate ourselves from the narrow focus that emotional attachment often engenders. Ultimately, emotional detachment is not about shutting down our feelings or isolating ourselves from the world. It is about fostering resilience and mastering our responses to the inevitable changes that life brings. As we explore emotional detachment through the lens of Stoic philosophy, we realize that life presents us with a truth of impermanence. Each relationship is merely a moment in the larger picture of existence. Marcus Aurelius encourages us to accept this, understanding that attachments, however deep, are not eternal. Emotional detachment is not about denial. It is the ability to engage with emotions from a place of strength and clarity. It teaches us how to navigate the complexities of relationships without being governed by pain or resentment. By mastering our thoughts and focusing on what lies within our control, we reclaim our power and nurture inner peace. Every encounter shapes us, and in accepting impermanence, we discover that joy and fulfillment come from within, rather than from external circumstances. In the journey of life, each ending also opens a new beginning. Move forward with courage, knowing that our capacity for love and growth will always endure, regardless of external changes. What if you find the content interesting and useful? Please like and subscribe to the Beacon of Ancient Insights channel, and leave a comment if you have any questions. Thank you.